I'm giving you music to talk over.
Well, I okay, do it again. This winter, coming. See what I was going for. Let's start it again. Stop it and let's start it again. The first thing that popped to my mind was that you like Avengers movies. You like it when they all come together from different movies into one mega movie.
I like an interconnected shared universe. Yeah, not mega movie. I like an interconnected shared universe that sometimes one movie is very pregnant with heroes.
You like those stupid kids movies, right? Well, this episode here, this very special bonus that you're about to hear is kind of like one of those stupid kid movies that Greg loves.
It is. It's chock full of people that you thought he'll never be good. But it's Daniel, and he's really good.
Well, we have a special crossover event.
So excited about that.
See, back when this was like something the Brady Bunch did, it wasn't a interconnected, movie.
The Brady Bunch never did that.
They did. Didn't they have a crossover episode where like Happy Days came over or something?
I don't think they did.
Well, shows did this.
I think Mork and Mindy might have gone to the Happy Days?
No, well, Mork and Mindy started on Happy Days, and it was a spin-off of Happy Days. Maybe Laverne and Shirley came to Mork and Mindy's house?
Now I'm very, Partridge Family obviously seems like a good crossover with the Brady Bunch. Also the Monkees, because she had a crush on Davy Jones.
How about when Rick Grimes came into the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and he took out Lou Grant?
Yeah, and he swore he's undead, and they're like, he was alive, he had a heartbeat, and he's like, nah, that's not true, no evidence whatsoever.
Aim for the head of the newsroom. Well, anyway, what this is, it's sort of like a Mork and Mindy crossover, where we have a very special episode where we had an interview and were interviewed by Robert Petersen of the Hidden History of Los Angeles podcast,
which is a great podcast.
We didn't really get into this, but it's sort of like the two of our shows are sort of a complete meal of getting like the full picture of LA history, because there's like spots that he doesn't cover that we fill in, and vice versa. He's the Mork to our Mindy.
He's clearly Mindy. We're Mork, and that's not a compliment. That's a bad thing.
You flatter us. We're Mork's suspenders. That's what we are.
We're Chachi. He's Mindy.
Chachi loves Mindy.
That's a thing that I tend to do is, if I'm interested in a subject, listen to something like, let's say, Last Podcast on the Left, and they'll have a lot of fun talking about it with deep research. And then I'll go and I'll find a very serious retelling of the story that sets it, and you're hearing a little mini documentary or whatever. And I like both of them covering one subject. That would the full meal of Hidden History and LA Meekly.
He also covers a lot of specific topics that we never would and never will, for that matter. And he has a lot of interviews with people that we frankly can't get.
Robert Petersen is the real deal, is what you're getting at. And I agree. He is the real deal.
He is certainly the Mindy. He's the Mindy Project.
He's the Mindy Project.
So this will be our little two-way interview with Robert Petersen. We talk about our shows and LA history, and then he has 5 questions that he asks to all of his guests. So he asked them to us, we asked them to him. The questions asked each other. It was crazy.
The questions went home with each other, and the three of us were just standing there like,
it was a question swing party, which is a Brady Bunch episode.
They were like seemingly on paper not hard questions, and then the second I stopped to think about it, I'm like, I don't know who I am.
There was 3
do
of
I know who
do
I am?
Know anything about Los Angeles?
Have I disassociated that much that I don't know my favorite taco spot?
But 3 of the 5 were really, for 2 days, I did not know what I was going to say when the time came. And then, boy, when the time came, did I say so many offensive words.
And one of the questions threw me because I thought I understood it one way, and then when we were talking with him, I'm like, oh, this is what he meant, and I had to think on the fly. So I had like a kind of 2-answer thing, but one of them was just like, I want to be the Beach Boys. It didn't come out. I know how it sounds.
The question was, what was your favorite taco stand? And you said you stammered.
Murray Wilson beat his kids.
Your nose started bleeding. Your eyes were spinning around in their head, and you blurted out, "I am Brian Wilson."
I don't surf, and I only want to write songs about surfing. I am Brian Wilson.
Yeah, if you want to listen to Robert's show, which you should, it's Hidden History of Los Angeles. You can find it on iTunes and anywhere that you listen to podcasts. If you're coming to us from him, you can listen to us. We talk about LA history.
If you're coming to us from him, you already know how to get to his podcast, and good for you. You're a smart person.
Well, that's the thing. We're releasing this very same interview on both of our shows at the same time. So you can choose who you love most and you can listen to it that way. But since we have you here, if you're looking for a holiday gift, this will come out before the holidays in the throes of your desperate holiday shopping season.
You think you've gotten your family everything. They're living in luxury. There's a couple things they don't have.
We are selling for the holidays. It's the 365 Days of a Los Angeles History calendar. It's a monthly wall calendar, and on every single day of the year, it has a different event that happened in Los Angeles history. That is $30, shipping included. If it's international, message us and we'll talk. But we're selling those.
With 365 days of LA history, you will never be bored. Every single day of the year, you'll be surprised.
To get that, you can message us la.meekly@gmail.com or on Instagram at @la_meekly or at Twitter at @LA_meekly. And we also have shirts available. The official super soft LA Meekly shirt.
I can't emphasize how soft these are and how comfortable they are. It's almost dangerous. If you buy this, I'm warning you right now, you might not get out of bed ever.
Get ready. So have fun listening to our interview with Robert Petersen. Check out his show. And I don't know. Smell you later, I guess. Our two catchphrases that we legally can't use either one of those. So yeah, here's our interview with Robert Petersen. We interview and being interviewed with Robert Petersen.
Here's the interview.
Smell you later.
Well, Daniel, Greg, it is so nice to share a Zoom call with you guys and learn a little bit more about your relationship with Los Angeles and some of your favorite things. But first, could you tell us a little bit about LA Meekly? How'd you guys start doing it?
Well, first off, he has taken the dominant host role. There's there's three hosts in this Zoom call, and we're all jockeying for control.
I am very happily Ed McMahon in this situation. Yeah. I'll just chime in every once in a while.
We're one Johnny and two Eds. Well, how did we start this, Greg? Ed? Well, I'm Daniel Zaffron, just so people know.
I'm Greg Gonzalez. We started this in 2013 because you'd been listening to another podcast.
Yeah. Did you ever listen? Whoever this is. Is it me?
I'm calling him.
Did you hear that? Did everyone hear that?
I heard that too.
Yeah.
Was that me?
I don't know. It wasn't me.
I have no idea because I'm using Melissa's computer and something like jiggled when that noise happened. So I don't know if
it might be.
Me. I'm using my wife's computer too. So
well. Are you using your wife's computer, Greg?
Yeah, I'm using my wife's computer. She's not a person, but I'm using her computer. When I get married, she'll take this computer away from me. So kinda, yeah.
You're already planning for the divorce. Did you ever listen, Robert? Did you ever listen to or are aware of the Bowery Boys podcast, which is like New York history sort of like I guess the official podcast of New York history?
Yes, I started listening to them later, but they're great. The Backstory was a podcast that I listened to that I was like, oh, wow, a history podcast. That's a great idea. So the Bowery Boys are great.
Yeah, I had been listening to them, and then me and Greg wanted to just basically have like an excuse to have a podcast, but we wanted to have some sort of structure.
Yeah.
And I'd been listening to them, and I thought like, well, there's not that for Los Angeles. So I figured we do that. And then like, I think pretty much at the same time as us, you started at about the same time. And I was like, well, that's it for us.
Well, these are all the podcasts that are allowed to happen in the city and they happen at the same time.
Yeah. There's not room in LA for two podcasts. But yeah, that was back in 2013. What made you start?
You know, I'd always been kind of obsessed with LA history and I studied it in college and, I just needed an outlet for this obsession, which you guys obviously share. And a podcast, I was listening to like Backstory and kind of similarly, I was like, hey, let's do this for LA. And it really, I don't know how it is for you guys, but I didn't have like a great plan. It was just kind of like, hey, let's record an episode and put it out. And I don't know how much pre-planning there really was. It was more just kind of start putting episodes out and kind of learn as I went. But that was a fun way to do it.
Yeah, we definitely didn't have a plan. We still don't have a plan.
We have an outline.
Yeah.
I don't know if that counts as a plan. We have a rough outline though.
We're still operating off of our log line pitch from 10 years ago or 80 years ago. But how have you found the struggle to get people, because our shows are certainly coexist in the like they fill different sort of needs, I would say, because like our show is, I would say, a harder sell to people who are interested in Los Angeles history. But then the biggest thing is that like a lot of people who are interested in Los Angeles history, I feel like aren't aware of what podcasts are.
That's interesting.
At least in 2013, maybe more so now, but back then.
I think now everyone's kind of climbing on board. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes. No, I still get people, for some reason, people conflate blogs with podcasts. I have like some family members. How's that blog going? Like, well, it's, you guys, kind of the same, you know.
Yeah. The podcast is going great, but the blog is not going good.
I think with LA history and LA in general, I mean, there's so much there that I feel like there's space for a lot of different podcasts. And I think you guys do something really interesting with comedy and just your whole setup. It works. I mean, you know, I think also Richard Shave and Kim Cooper, they did a podcast for a while that was great. And I hope they bring it back, because I feel like they had it more of the historic preservation angle, which was really cool stuff that, you know, they would get into. I mean, that's one good thing I think about LA history. And I don't know how you guys feel about it, but, you know, getting to know other people that write LA history, and everyone's so nice and everyone's so, you know, you're constantly learning new stuff. There's so much stuff into LA to get your hands on. It's not like we're worried about taking each other's space. It's like, I mean, there's unlimited amount of stories. Like you're never going to run out of stories. Right. That's a great thing about, you know, working on an LA podcast.
Yeah. He stole our story about, we can't tell the story about Griffith J. Griffith because now he owns the rights to it.
And there's constantly, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, it's just, I'm constantly, you know, articles on KCET. I just read an article by Victoria Bernal, who does LA Twitter, just constant. I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about that. And I think that's one of the most interesting things about this podcast is that we're so many years in, but we're still, there's tons of unexplored material for us.
Yeah, it's, well, we found that because early on, we basically would do like 3 stories each per episode on a topic. But now that we're finding like our research is so much more in depth and we're like discovering so many different layers within one story, it's like if we still did 3 stories per person, it would be like a 5-hour episode at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm blown away. You guys do it every month. You know, I don't know if people realize how much research it takes. I mean, I listened to one of your guys' episodes and it's like, this took so many hours to put this together, you know, I know I do something similar, you know, and it's a ton of research to put your episodes together.
I'm glad you have acknowledged that because we're both exhausted. I remember when we first met, we first met in the Cecil Hotel
in the elevator of the Cecil,
of all places. And you were saying that like I think you had just had a kid or something, and I was like, how is he doing anything? How is he here at the Cecil Hotel?
And you had to go back to work that day. You're like, okay,
yeah, that was like your lunch break.
Yeah, my office is actually a few blocks away from the Cecil Hotel.
Oh, cool.
But yeah. I mean, that's another thing, but what's interesting with the podcast, I'm very impressed with the folks who, like you guys, are able to do like once a month. I'm very sporadic. Like sometimes I'll do once a month, sometimes I'll do twice in a month. It takes a lot of work to put into it. So I'm hopefully one day, maybe when my kids are a little bit older, I can get a little more regular and be like, you know.
You can put them to work on the podcast.
They're going to be outside doing yard work. I mean, that's why you have kids, right?
Go outside and mow the podcast for me.
These are my 2 employees.
Come in here and edit some audio. You got to learn Pro Tools early. Learn Pro Tools.
Baby's first editing program. Yeah, that's why we wanted to do this, because I feel like there's people who listen to either one. I'm sure there's plenty of people who listen to both of our shows, but I feel like there's some who listen to one or the other and just aren't aware, because like it's hard to. I know that there's people interested out there, but I don't know how to reach them. That's been our greatest struggle.
I do enjoy that you have an optimistic assumption that there are actually people who do listen to our podcast.
Yeah, and it's not just glitches in the counting statistics.
It's not just immediate family members.
Yeah.
Accidental downloads. Yeah.
Solar flares are our biggest downloads. Yeah, I know they're out there. I know it.
I think that was like the X-Files line. I know what was that X-Files tagline?
I want to believe that there's LA history podcast fans out there.
I gotta say, I'm very interested to hear your answers to some of these questions. If you guys want to jump into those,
Sure. I want to hear yours also. We'll throw it right back at you.
Do you guys want to do them now? I've done, I think, once or twice with 2 people. So, do you want me to do Daniel first or Greg first, or just I'll throw it out and let you guys battle it out?
Yeah.
Throw it out and let us just tear each other apart to answer you.
We're going to see who is the dominant, the podcast
Who's
host.
the stronger Ed?
Each question is a knife in the ground thrown in like a cage, and like only one of you is coming out.
Okay, number 1, Kohls or Philippe's?
I have a very strong opinion on this one.
You do. I have a very gray area answer for this. Yeah.
Well, I very much believe that Kohls has a much better sandwich, but I think Philippe's has the best mustard. So if I could walk my Kohls plate over to Philippe's and they could put mustard on it, that's my dream.
The audacity of walking into Philippe's with someone else's French dip.
Not just anyone else's French dip, but Kohls French dip.
They're competitors.
Yeah, they're mortal enemy.
I say Philippe's for lunch and Kohls for dinner. Philippe's French dip for lunch. Yummy, yummy, yummy. We're all having a good time. Lights go down. Rats come out. French dip from Kohls for dinner.
Well, Kohls is definitely a better nighttime place to be inside.
Yes.
I could see that. What about you?
Oh my! So, I mean, it's like picking between children. I mean, come on now.
That's our next question.
Which one do I like better? They're too young to listen to the podcast, but like 20 years from now, if they ever listen to this podcast, they're going to be like, "Oh man, Daddy likes me more."
By then, the inheritance will already be dished out. They'll already know.
Again, I like the optimistic assumption that there'd be an inheritance. So Kohls, like in the early 2000s, I lived right outside of downtown, and I would go to Kohls religiously for lunch. Like that was my spot. There actually used to be a little spot in the background, in the back, like a back room, which isn't there anymore. They took it out during the renovation, but it was just a great spot to eat lunch. And they used to have shows back there, like unamplified shows. Like I played there with a woman named Gwendolyn. We used to open up for Icy Hawks in LA, the great LA country band. So, I have a lot of great memories, a lot of love for Kohls, but I got to say for the sandwich, I'll go with Philippe's. But they're both phenomenal. I mean, the pickles, I'll go for Kohls. The Kohls pickles, the spicy pickles are better.
Yeah, I think I've had the pickles.
But they're both great.
I feel attacked that both of you seem to be leaning towards Philippe's over Kohls.
I think we're bullying you. I think that's what's going on here.
All right, I'll change it to Philippe's. You were in a band? What?
Oh yeah, no, I played music over the years, and still.
I think I knew that actually. Yeah,
but Kohls used to actually have people would play in that back room. This is a long time ago. I mean, this is probably 2001, 2002, 2003, around there, before the renovation. Which I don't mean to. The renovation of Kohls was wonderful, and the place is still beautiful. And I'm so glad that the new owners kept the historic, value to the place. They did a great job. And
they did, yeah. I like to treat the back room like it's still a speakeasy that no one talks about. So when you're like back room, like there's no back room.
Well, it actually was a different back room.
Oh, really?
Down, Robert.
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing is, so when you used to go into Kohls, when you walk down the steps, there used to be an eating area directly to your left, which is no longer there. That's another business. If you went right down through the bar, all the way down, there was actually another room there. So I don't know what was the varnish before the renovation. I don't remember that being a seating area. So they changed it up a little bit during the renovation. You guys ready to go number 2? This is a really tough one. I mean, come on.
I know. This was one of the 4 that gave me trouble.
He was so distressed last night. He's like, okay, let's talk about the questions. I'm like, no.
I will be honest. I was a little worried about these questions too, because I'm not a person that picks like a favorite. That's not how my mind works. So it's really hard for me too, when I was like, well, I ask all these questions to other people. Man, why you got to ask it to me? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, the doctor can't take his own medicine.
And this is another tough one, like favorite taco spot in LA or spots. You can give more than one.
More than one.
It's a Kohls, Philippe's.
It's not on the menu, but if you ask persistently, they'll make it for you just to get you away.
The only spot I could really think of is, I don't know, it's the place near you, Greg, the one that we've been to a few times that's in the car wash.
Oh, Leo's Tacos. I like them, but the thing is, I'm more of a burrito person than a taco person. So if you want to talk burritos.
Yeah, let's talk burritos.
Typically, bean and cheese burrito has been my go-to. As me and Greg have always discussed, that's like how you can gauge how good a Mexican place is based on how good their bean and cheese burrito is. And my favorite used to be Nachos, which was in Granada Hills, but they closed down a few years ago because a Chipotle moved in down the street. But now I'm all about chili relleno burritos. A couple of my favorites are, there's Las Fuentes in Reseda, and then there is Cactus in Studio City on Moore Park. The Sherman Oaks one has vermin, but the other one is pretty clean.
Stay away from that one.
They got vermin on the menu.
Yeah.
And I'm told not to order it.
What about you, Greg?
There's Azteca. I think it's a tortilleria in East LA that makes a really good chili relleno burrito. But if we're talking tacos, Leo's Tacos is really great. And then Yuca's on Hillhurst in Los Feliz is really good too. Yuca's
is definitely, there's been a few guests that called out Yuca's on Los Feliz.
Really?
Yeah, that's people. And also the owners, like people know the owners. It's a great like neighborhood spot.
Yeah, I went there recently and everyone was eating chili cheeseburgers. I'm like, what?
That seems bizarre.
You guys know they have tacos here, right?
It was everyone's white cousin day to come eat. What about you, Robert?
So that's a really tough one. There's so many good taco spots. I will go local because it's just too hard to expand it to all of LA. But locally for me, like the local taco spots for me would probably be La Estrella on Fair Oaks, which is there's also one on York and Highland Parks, but it's north on Fair Oaks, north of the 210 freeway. Great asada tacos. And then for taco trucks, I actually don't know the name of the truck, but it's on South Fair Oaks, below Old Town, below Del Mar, in front of Nishikara Motors, and it's always there, and it's always packed Friday, Saturday nights, and it's phenomenal. One of these days, I need to learn actually what the taco truck is called, but taco truck in front of Nishikara Motors, that's what people say in Pasadena. So locally, and actually, they just opened up a Guisados in Pasadena too, which makes great tacos too. So
yeah,
I still haven't had them. I hear
really good.
Wonderful things.
Well, but you mentioned that's what I love about Los Angeles is that not only do I have tons of taco places that I love, there's tons more that I haven't even tried yet.
Or heard of.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a never-ending quest for good food. And it's not just tacos. Like, I spend a lot of time in the San Gabriel Valley, and it's like I'm constantly, I've never checked out that tofu place before. That Korean never seen that. Like, it's like bombarded with all these options.
I've made it my quest over the years to go to every single Ethiopian place in Little Ethiopia. Wow. If
in one day
with the most expandy bread in your stomach from every single restaurant. I recommend Roslyn's in Little Ethiopia. I know we're completely off topic from tacos now, but I was there the other night and it's great.
Well, now I'm interested because about sports here. Well, I want to know what your guys' favorite LA sports moments are.
This was the easiest one for me because I'm only interested in the Kings. I don't care about any other LA sports team.
As long as that's out there recorded, that's good. I'm just glad that's recorded.
And I actively don't like some of them.
I campaign against most of them.
Obviously, I'm going to go with the LA Kings winning the 2012 Stanley Cup.
That was amazing. I didn't go to the games, but I went to the parade, and the parade was a lot of fun.
I was at the parade. Do you watch the Kings also?
I've been to a few games. I must say, hockey's one game. I enjoy it a lot, seeing it, and I love anytime I can get a ticket, I'll go. But I don't follow it enough to really follow it on TV or to follow it. But it's a very fun sport to see live.
It's definitely more enjoyable live than on TV when like the cameras don't have the technology to really capture all the speed that's going on.
But you gotta trust us. The puck just went by. Yeah. You gotta trust us.
Great. How about you? What did
Oh, mine's so cliche. It's Kirk Gibson's home run in the ninth inning, 88. That's
I should have said that there is a favorite sports moment other than Kirk Gibson. I forgot to actually put that there. That is when I asked it.
damn it.
See, I don't even know what that
I fell
means.
into the trap.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh my gosh, it's killing
You gotta
me.
picture it. Bottom of the ninth.
I see it.
Bottom of the ninth, dinner secretary on the mound.
That's an important part of the game.
Walks.
He walks out there. He's limping out there.
So, but Greg, are you a Dodger fan, Laker fan? What's your sports affiliations?
Dodgers is probably baseball is my number one. Basketball, I kind of I'll lift ahead and be like, "What's going on?" But I can't keep up with that. And hockey is a distant cousin.
I've taken you to a Kings game and you had a good time.
I had a great time.
Don't pretend.
I had a great time. My favorite thing was you explaining everything to me, though.
And also pointing out like that guy's not going to be on the team next year. He's about to be traded. He's gonna retire.
You were mumbling like losers.
Yeah,
the whole
because
time.
this was
Losers,
like
losers.
4 or 5 years ago when the Kings were at like their absolute worst of this generation.
The worst of this current model. Yeah.
I've been interested in going to a Rams game. Like I don't think I've ever watched a full game of football before. I don't know anything about it, but the idea of being in that massive stadium is so interesting to me.
Yeah, no, I really want to see SoFi Stadium. That's, stadium looks amazing.
I drove by it and it's like its own biosphere.
Yeah.
Like there's a lake, there's like a whole flock, there's like a new species of birds that lives there.
A small apartment complex inside. People are living in there.
Yeah, I'd love to go to that. They should play hockey in there.
Well, now, now what is the Staples Center now? Now the Kings are going to play in the crypto.com center.
Yeah, darkweb.com arena, money used to buy Hitmen Stadium.
Well, what do they get? $700-800 million? I mean,
dollars. It's Bitcoin. That's how
it costs like 2 Bitcoin for them to buy.
Oh, it's going to take me a while to get used to that name. I got to be honest.
It's going to be weird. Like I can see good nicknames coming out of it, but like I think it's mostly going to be referred to as the former Staples Center.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. Because remember, like with Library Tower became the USA Bank Tower.
Yeah,
right.
I still called it the Library Tower.
Yeah,
for a long time, and I don't even know what
everyone
it is
does.
now.
This next question is my.
Well, I haven't got to talk about my sports yet.
Oh God!
Oh, you haven't.
Completely
You're
forgot.
rude.
I'm actually a fanatic. So this one was really tough because, of course, Kirk Gibson's home run, but we had the 2020 World Series with the Dodgers, which was great. The Lakers beating the Celtics in 2008 was amazing. Derek Fisher's .04 shot going back to 2004. Obviously not Laker fans, but
I'm writing all these down. So if people ask me Laker questions, like, well, what about that?
With Derek Fisher.
But I think the sports moment that for me kind of is probably my favorite is Robert Ory's 3-point shot in 2002 to beat the Kings. And let me,
different Kings.
Play it out for us.
I'll
Describe
play it out for you. And so
yeah.
also, my daughter's been talking to me a lot about sports. My daughter's 5, about term 6, and she's been asking me like every day, Papa, why do you like sports so much? Why do you always watch the Dodger game? And my wife, I don't think even understands it fully because
they're crying at you.
It's not rational. Like fan apparently comes from the word fanatic. Like it is not a rational experience. We are a little crazy.
Yeah.
And so you go back to like 2002. At that time, the Sacramento Kings were a very good basketball team. The Kings were up 2-1 in the series. The Lakers started out, I think they were like 20 points down after the first quarter. It's looking bad, like the season's going to be over. And you're watching the whole season, building up to the playoffs. And then Lakers come back. And then with 11 seconds to go, Lakers are down 2. Lakers have the ball. Kobe has the ball, takes a shot, misses. The ball bounces off to Shaq. Shaq gets a tip in. Shaq misses. Then Vlade Divac bats the ball away, and it looks like the season's over. I mean, that's it. Yeah. But, just so happens that at that place and time, Robert Ory is sitting right there behind the 3-point line. The ball goes right to him,
waving,
puts it up, makes the 3. Time runs out. Staples Center goes wild. And I'm watching this with like 15 of my closest friends. We're jumping up and down, yelling, screaming, hugging each other. It's so loud. It's breaking. It's pandemonium. And it's pure sports bliss.
Yeah.
And I will say it is not rational, but that is beautiful. And one of those moments is I will always remember that sports moment. It was a very special Laker moment. And the Lakers went on to win the championship that year. So that was great.
It's weird that, I think like a lot of sports, you're kind of fiending for that moment of like high stress where like this could go either way. This could be like the best thing that's ever happened, or we could lose terribly in the face of everybody. But like the sweet spot is like the tension of that the last couple seconds. Yeah.
And things that are just chance. I mean, there's something, there's an element of chance. It's not, the best team does not always win. There's
where chance meets talent, like all these trained people who are the best of the best, and then they still need chance to happen for, to the big win.
Yeah.
So it sounds like none of us really like football.
Oh, well, that's a good question. I love football, but it was tough because growing up, I followed the Raiders and the Rams a little bit, but then they left town and now the Rams are back. I'm following them a little bit, but I feel like in LA, I do have friends that are diehard Raiders fans, but I feel like a lot of us have kind of latched onto the Dodgers and the Lakers.
Because they stuck around.
Except for Daniel. He didn't latch on either.
No, I don't need them.
He latched on to high hockey.
Well, I think part of it is because my dad's from Brooklyn and he grew up with the Brooklyn Dodgers. And then when he moved to LA, he's like, this isn't the Dodgers. Like, I'm not watching them.
Where's Duke Snyder?
Their hats are different.
That's not the L train. I enjoy going to baseball games, and my dad loves baseball. He just doesn't love Dodgers baseball. So it was like never a part of my life growing up.
Is your dad a Yankees fan here?
No, Mets fan. Yeah, Greg.
Mets fan?
Even weirder.
Come on.
If you grew up as a Brooklyn Dodgers fan, you are required to be a Mets fan.
You have to latch onto the New York loser team.
Yeah, the New York losers.
Sports. Let's see. We've done sports. What's the next one? I even forgot what the next one is. Oh, this is also another one. Tough one. Favorite LA movie or book? Or you can pick a couple, whatever you guys want to do.
Oh, you go first, Greg.
God, I always say maybe my favorite LA movie might be Up in Smoke. I don't have a good answer. I don't have like a good reason though. They're just like in all the neighborhoods that I know.
They have a bad car like you do.
A bad car? What kind of car does Greg have?
I have a 2003 Chevy S10, but I feel like it's the equivalent of like inflation, to compensate for inflation. Yeah.
And it's made of marijuana.
Stained with marijuana smells.
Now I got a question because I haven't seen that since I was a kid. How does that hold up? How does Up in Smoke hold up today?
No, I saw it literally like a couple months ago. I had never seen it before, and this will anger people, but I do not get the appeal of that movie.
You mean the squarest person I know doesn't get the appeal of Up in Smoke? That's weird. I don't know what they're smoking. I don't know what they feel.
What is up exactly? What is up, Doc? It's certainly like from a politically correct standpoint, it does not hold up, and even from like, I don't know. It's a movie of its time, man.
Also on my list, Who Framed Roger Rabbit is essential. Got me interested a little bit in LA history just because of the whole red car controversy, which is probably not even that true. But half a cartoon movie taught me that. And Targets is great too. Peter Bogdanovich's Targets isn't one that I always think about.
Did you come up with a book?
Probably just Farewell My Lovely is my favorite. It's sweaty. I don't know what I mean by that, but it's a very sweaty book.
I was really struggling to come up with a book because
I don't read.
Yeah, because I never learned. I was too busy with Cheech and Chong, if you know what I mean. I mean everything I kept trying to think of, I just kept coming back to Raymond Chandler and like The Long Goodbye, or Farewell My Lovely and The Long Goodbye. Like it kept coming to that. But for movies, the first one that popped into my head, even though it's not really an LA movie, is E.T. Only because it's not explicitly LA, but it was filmed where I grew up around the time I was growing up there. So it feels very much like my childhood. And it's just sort of implied that this movie's about me, right?
It's implied that I'm Elliot, right?
But then if it's like something that's more explicitly LA, I feel like The Big Lebowski is a very good LA movie. And that's also kind of Raymond Chandler-y. Yeah,
The Big Lebowski, that is good. And Hollywood Star Lanes, for anyone who used to go bowling there, that was a great bowling alley. I was very sad when they tore that thing down.
I think my school bus in middle school used to go by there, and I'd be like, one day I'm going to grow up and I'm going to go to this bowling alley. Tore it down. What about you? What do you dig movie-wise, book-wise?
So that's a tough one. I mean, I'd have to go. I mean, I know it might become, I know a lot of people say it, but Chinatown is just such a great movie. Even apart from it having anything to do with Los Angeles.
Yeah.
The screenplay, Robert Town, the music, Jerry Goldsmith. I mean, Jack Nicholson, Faye Dunaway. I mean, it's just a great movie.
I always watch it thinking like I probably won't like it as much as I always do, but every time I'm like, this is so good. And have you seen this?
The music, I'm just like, it's so great. For LA geeks like you guys and me, I think LA Plays Itself is one that I always recommend, even though it's not like a story, it's a documentary. I think for people like you guys and me who have a problem, so we can kind of, or maybe it's like heroin or crack for us,
or marijuana up in smoke,
or marijuana,
or a car made of marijuana. Yes. I love that there's just like segments of like he just shows all the bridges in like 2 minutes of like here's all the bridges that you see in all the movies of LA. I'm like, yeah, this is good, this is quality stuff.
I feel like some people watch that movie and who are not interested in LA and are probably like, this is the most boring thing possible. People like us are like, I can't believe someone actually made a movie exactly what I wanted to do.
I would say that that's the movie, like before both of us had seen it, I think that was the most, like if anyone ever contacted us about the podcast, it was always like, you should watch LA Plays Itself. That like everybody would tell us to watch that.
And then also one movie that I saw recently, which it's not like my favorite movie, but I think it's such a weird movie, is Falling Down with Michael Douglas.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it is a weird movie.
It's not like a story about Los Angeles. It doesn't reveal anything about the city. It's not a true picture of Los Angeles at all. It's like this imaginary, or what people think of Los Angeles. Yeah. And it's this exaggerated, it's specifically like I think people's fear of Los Angeles being the future of America. So really weird kind of representation of people's fears about multiculturalism. And, and it's funny because I feel like it's still relevant today. Like some of the issues, actually kind of hit on the nose for things that we're seeing today. So I feel like that's a movie that I feel like someone could do like a PhD thesis, like unpacking like all the things in there, because you watch that movie and it's like, this is really over the top. It's completely exaggerated. I can understand how people would be offended by it, but it's just so wild and crazy. I think that, again, I think someone could do a thesis unpacking everything going on in that movie.
We recently did an episode about action movies, so we were just watching a bunch of stuff, and I watched Predator 2. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I've not seen Predator.
Predator comes to Los Angeles.
Whoa, that's on the list.
I was watching it. It's about like these two gangs in the future, big clash and everything, and I thought, this must be a response to the LA riots. But it was before the riots. I'm like, this must have been just in the air of
caused the LA riots.
Yeah. But like it must have been in like this gang warfare and the way everyone looks at LA, and just it must be wild in the streets. People must have been really thinking that about LA.
Because for that episode, I watched Assault on Precinct 13, and it was the same thing, but with Watts, because it was post Watts, and it didn't talk anything about like that, but it felt so informed by everything that had happened that it just turned into this movie. That same with Night of the Living Dead, where like it says nothing about anything and yet it seems like it means so much, or it seems like it's saying so much.
Yeah, it's interesting when the movie is like, this is nothing about how Los Angeles really is, but this is how people think Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And then books, I got to give it up for, first of all, we are in a great time in LA writing because we have people like DJ Waldy, Linnell George, who are killing it. I mean, I think this is a great time to be interested in Los Angeles and Los Angeles history. But for the best book, I got to give it up for Carrie McWilliams, Southern California, An Island on the Land. That's, I think my favorite LA book, and I still think, I don't even know when this thing was published, but it still informs us, decades and decades later.
I didn't even think we could pick nonfiction books. LA Noir by Bunton is really good.
Man.
Yeah, I love that.
That's one guy. I have not met him. I wanted to meet him because I thought that book was so well written.
Yeah.
It told, it's been a few years since I read it, but it about like Chief Parker and Mickey Cohen, and told their stories and wove them together, but also corruption in LA in the 30s. Like he did such a great job of painting the picture of LA in the 30s. I was blown away by that book.
Yeah, he's really good at bringing up just like these historical moments and then tying it to these two men, and you're like, oh yeah, that happened in LA. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Like all this stuff was happening at the same time, and he does such a good job of like, is it leaning towards the gangsters or is it leaning towards the cops? And then you find like he's so good.
Okay, now the last one. If you could go back in time to any year in LA's past, just for one day, which year would you choose and why?
This was maybe the hardest one.
So the question is essentially if I can come back to any one day in LA history.
Yeah, just go, well, or any year, or just,
okay.
You can go for one day, you could transport yourself back and walk around LA in any year, or any place, any year. Where would you want to go and see?
The day that we started our podcast.
And we would tell yourself not to do it?
I'd grab myself by the lapel. Go turn back, young man.
Don't give your life to podcasting. It's not worth it.
This was hard, but I kept coming back because I'm still obsessed with the Battle of LA in 1942.
Oh, yeah.
Because that just sounded so crazy that I would have loved to have like just stood on like the top of Mulholland Drive and just watched the whole thing unfold. That would have been so weird.
That's interesting that you say that because growing up, both my grandfathers were block captains during World War II, and my dad's dad, his job was to actually, when the Japanese were going to bomb, he was supposed to turn off all the lights on Pico between like Normandy and Hoover.
Really?
And because so the Japananies couldn't see what they were bombing. And I have like Super 8 film of them like practicing putting out fires and trying to they on Vermont and 3rd, they would light a building on fire and practice putting it out because they were preparing. They thought that, LA was going to get bombed.
Whose building were they lighting on fire?
Well, it was some, I don't know. I have videos.
At some hospital. I don't know.
But it is funny because it seems so unreal now, that fear, and it seems kind of silly. Mm-hmm. But at least according to, my family, like there was some concern, that was a real fear at the time.
Yeah.
I'm sure after Pearl Harbor, our Pacific Coast was sort of like, oh boy, oh man, they got Hawaii. Okay, well we're close to Hawaii.
Well, there was that one Japanese sub that launched in Ventura or Santa Barbara or something. Yeah. I mean, we say that we can't believe it, but after the last presidency and the whole pandemic, like there were a lot of times where I thought, this is it.
There is some truth to that. There's a lot of things that you look back on, and
yeah. One other thing that I learned about recently that I thought would be fun to see was there was in 1939 at the Coliseum, they had the International Jitterbug Championship. I wouldn't have mind seeing that.
You would have wanted to be a judge on that? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. No, go. You stay, you go.
Charleston Moore.
Faster. If we're talking about going back in a year and just like meandering around, I was kind of obsessed with this like student short film. I think it's from 1963. I think it's called Skater Dater, and it's just a guy filmed like a silent skateboarding movie in Torrance, and Torrance at that time just looks like Brady Bunch. Like it's just so
it still kind of looks like Brady Bunch.
It does, yeah. It's just such a Beach Boys song, and it sounds so cool to just like walk around and pick on Brian Wilson. If I had to come back and witness one thing though, capture of Richard Ramirez is always my go-to.
Oh yeah, that would have been cool. Unreal. Nothing ever in true crime like that, where the mob with pitchforks were like, "Don't worry, we got it."
Now I think I'm older than you guys. When I was a kid, I remember.
You were at the Jitterbug Championship?
No, I was not. But my dad did know someone who, like, relative was killed by him. But
oh my god,
there was. I mean, I was a kid, so my memory may be a little, take it with a grain of salt. But I remember being frightened. Like I remember the idea of like windows. You had to shut your windows. Like there was a real palpable fear with the Night Stalker. Like that guy struck a chord of fear, I think, in a lot of folks in Southern California.
Yeah, everybody I talked to who was alive for that was like, yeah, this was the hottest summer of the 80s, and we all had our windows shut, because if we didn't, this tall meth addict would come in here and hurt everybody.
Didn't you know someone, Greg, who like...
Yeah.
You tell the story.
My friend's, who's older than me, it's actually my dad's friend, but kind of my friend too, his wife's sister was home in an apartment, I think in Eagle Rock or that general area, and some guy broke in the window and tried to pull her out. She was screaming, and they broke into the bathroom and saved her and got away, jumped over a fence, and they went to a lineup later and they pointed him out, but they didn't have enough to arrest him, and it was the Night Stalker. And I think it was before the spree, before he started killing, when he was just like kidnapping people or trying to kidnap people. Yeah.
Horrifying.
Yeah. There's so many stories about Richard Ramirez. I'm like, yep, that's the scariest thing I've ever heard. Cool. Okay. That's in my brain now. I recorded that.
Yeah, that was interesting to be at the Cecil Hotel. You guys pointed out to me the room. I didn't know which room he was, but I think you guys pointed out to me which room.
Well, because they had pointed it out like secretly on the tour. Oh. I think it was wasn't the esoteric people?
Yeah, Richard, I think, was like, check this out.
Yeah. That was a upsetting place.
Yeah.
The lobby is great, and then you go upstairs. You're like, oh no, oh no, get me out of here. Why is the ceiling so tall? I didn't get, like, it was so high up. I'm like, oh, this is for giants are here.
Well, it's for when you have someone on your shoulder, when you're over your shoulder when you're walking through the halls.
Daniel pointed out that one of the rooms had like tape over the door, so if you opened it, you knew if somebody went in there.
Yeah,
that old PI trick.
Yeah, because I had seen James Bond do that, and then I saw that at the Cecil Hotel, and I'm like, this is a place where paranoia reigns supreme.
James Bond is here.
Yeah, it's funny. Gosh, this may be 10 years ago. I was living in downtown. And I remember I was walking to work, and I remember these two like 20-year-old French girls were like walking down the street. And I was walking down, I think, Broadway. They're like, oh, do you know where the Cecil Hotel is? We just flying with from France, and we're staying at the Cecil Hotel. Like, okay.
And they were never seen again.
I mean, if you go on like Travelocity or something like that, and you're coming from a foreign country, you really don't know. It is in downtown, and I think it has been renovated. I think probably it's not what it used to be.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know.
For me, to go back, I mean, I don't know. That's a tough one. I mean, to go back to see LA before the arrival of the Europeans, that'd be really interesting because we know so little about what things look like. That would be great. Also, 1850s LA. Like the Wild West, like just to walk around. I mean, gosh, violent and probably crazy, but it'd be interesting to see. But if I had to pick one, I would go to probably 1940s Los Angeles because I'd love to see the LA that my grandparents were in and my parents were kids, well, very small kids. Because, I just a couple weeks ago went with my dad to walk around the neighborhood he grew up, which is used to be called Pico Heights, but now it's like Pico Union, right off Pico and Hoover. And just walking around there about how, back then, Pico Normandy, Pico, it's like these were all like little self-contained neighborhoods with their store. Everybody knew each other. There's a little movie theater, and just I'd love to be able to see that, to be able to walk down Pico, see my grandfather working at the hardware store, see my grandmother on the Pico streetcar going to Bullocks, Wilshire, to the tea room. Like that would be for me personally, that would just be wonderful because I've heard so much about it, and just to be able to actually see it in real life would be an amazing experience.
I also thought about seeing the like native days, or just like the moment when Europeans showed up, just to see how did that meeting go?
It's haunted. Go back.
Go back.
Super haunted. That bush is haunted. Get out of here.
It's crazy to see even pictures of like intersections in the valley from like 1960, and there's just nothing. It's just like cabbage fields or whatever. It's crazy.
1989.
Yeah.
Cabbage fields everywhere. The valley was just wheat.
It's funny. I don't think I necessarily saw anything quite like that, but I do remember as a child driving down like Foothill or Baseline out to the 15 before the 210 was finished.
Right.
And there were parts that, I might be remembering this wrong, but just seemed like either empty space or were orchards and were things like that. And now it's all development, and I think that's would have been interesting to be able to see some of that, like in the valley, just to see nothing. And then 20 years later,
one tiny house, and in that house, an alien, small alien, and a little boy.
Well, how did E.T. hold up? Because that's another one I haven't seen.
E.T. will always hold up. E.T. hold up should be the quote from that movie.
It is Steven Spielberg, right?
Yeah. It's like Steven Spielberg par excellence. It's so good. Like it is such a good movie, and it will make you cry, Greg.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm so happy when I still see Henry Thomas and stuff. Like, Elliot, you made it.
You got over it.
And now I'm wondering though if anyone is actually going to be still listening at the end of all of this.
And now you know our problem.
Yeah, as with most of our episodes, I can tell you the answer is no.
I've enjoyed myself. This has been a lot of fun for me.
I agree.
This is way better with a third person, let me tell you.
Well, I think this has been a lot of fun. I love your guys' podcast. I think you guys do something really great with introducing humor and the back and forth between you guys. It's really fun to listen. So hopefully anybody who listens to one or the other podcast will, this will be an opportunity to kind of check out other podcasts. And, maybe someday if Kim and Richard get going again with their podcast, we can do something with them.
Yeah, we can have a 5-person Zoom. Yeah, thank you, Robert, for hanging out with us.
Thanks so much. And I'll turn this thing off. We're just turning the recorder off.